In today's episode, we have with us Wendi Blum Weiss, who will show you how to quickly launch a six-figure business with a book. So stick around. If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest. Hey, Digital Trailblazers. I'm excited to have with us Wendi. Wendi, go ahead, kind of give a little background to yourself, let our audience know really what you're all about.
Hi, Leah. So good to be here today. And so I made an exit out of corporate, out of the pharmaceutical industry. I guess now it's 14 years at the age of 50. And I always like to put numbers on it. And it was really important because I was at the top of my career to figure out a way that I could quickly monetize and establish my expertise. And I did that by actually writing a book. Now, I had thought about it for several years before I made that exit. And that is why today I'm so passionate about helping entrepreneurs or those that are in corporate that have a side hustle or want to exit out of their current career into working for themselves to actually have a book. It opens the doors for being on stage, for being on podcasts like this, and to monetize your business.
That's awesome. So I think a lot of folks see a book as just like the end-all be-all kind of savior to their business. I've seen this a lot. I think they're very powerful tools to empower people in different ways to build their businesses, but having one by itself doesn't necessarily equate to business. I've seen many people fall into that trap where they put everything they had into writing and making this awesome book. They didn't learn anything about how to market it. They didn't do anything to actually get it out there. And now they're 6 months to a year down the road and they're still not generating any clients. So I'd love to talk about the business side of this because I've seen it done well and I've seen it done not well. And I see it done not well probably more often than not. So,
well, I agree with you 100%. And so I used my book as leverage, as a door opener. So the very first year, I set a goal to speak 111 times so that I could get on stages and connect with, I didn't have an audience, right? I didn't have a community. I hadn't built anything yet. And so I used other people's audiences, OTA, right? And used it to establish relationships, to build collaborations, to build my email list. That first year I was really focused on building my email list. I built it to over 10,000 people in year one. So I was really focused on really just establishing my authority, credibility, building trust in the community, getting my name out there so that I would actually have an audience that I would be speaking to rather just kind of blindly putting something out there.
Yeah, I think that's such an important, probably one of the most important parts about building your business and making sales and actually generating revenue is that audience part. And that's the part where I think people who are brand new to building an online business or building any type of business, they just don't really think about. And they put all their time and effort into creating the offer and creating the perfect offer and just putting all the finishing touches on it and spending thousands of dollars on the logo or something like that, right? And they put all this time and effort and money into creating the offer. And then they, quote, launch by posting about it or just publishing a sales page, and then they expect it to somehow go viral or for people to just find it, and then they make no sales. And now they find out that they're just back at square one trying to figure out, well, now how do I get people to see this? So what I love about what you're doing is that you're building it the right way first, right? You're building it in order. You're warming up that audience first, and it's not a cold audience that you're marketing to. It's a warm audience, and you've already established credibility, which is what that book does for you. And that book gets you on stages, and it's such an amazing way, I think, to launch a business, because you're almost guaranteed to make sales. Obviously there's no guarantees in life, but when you have a large, warm audience that you've already built, and then you present them with an offer, you're almost guaranteed to make sales.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, right? If you think of it like a triangle, like bring people in, and you bring them in either for free to get to hear you speak. You can even gift your book, which is a great thing to do while you're speaking, so you don't get to tell them your whole backstory, but you can share a lot of that in a book. And it's so inexpensive when you think of how much money you invest in marketing a book. If you are publishing through Amazon KDP, for example, average book would cost, an author costed about $3. So that's a great gift to give somebody. Or when you're networking, instead of having to focus on telling them everything about yourself and about your business, just really connect with them. I always keep a couple of books in my bag and then gift them a book. And then when you set up a coffee meeting or a Zoom meeting or something, then chances are pretty good when they know they're going to meet with you, they're going to at least read some of your book, so that you're already ahead of the curve when you're making that connection with them.
Right. Now, as far as how you're going to leverage this book when you're launching your business, is it primarily just to get on stage? Or because I've seen other people use a published book as kind of a freebie that they offer online, and they put it in a funnel to generate, like qualified leads or even buyer leads if they do a free plus shipping offer or something like that. Are you doing any of that stuff as far as putting it into a free plus shipping offer, or are you solely focused on just using it to create, build authority and get on stages and build an audience that way?
Yeah, all the above. It really depends. It depends on what your end goal is. You have to reverse engineer, seeing what it is that you want to achieve by having the book. It's a great gift to give somebody. It's a great lead magnet. You can even send out a chapter of your book. A lot of the books that we produce are co-author books, because we like the idea of having 15 or 20 authors come together and collaborate. So if on average, one author solo might have an email list, a minimum of 1,000 all the way up to 20,000, and multiply that by 15, right? So sending out a chapter gives someone a taste of what you're about and a little bit about your expertise in business. And that is the piece that is going to draw them into then learning and wanting more. Maybe then they're going to set up a one-on-one call with you. What's so great about books is you can have the QR code to your link tree or all your offers, right? Not just one offer. And you can bring them in slowly so people can really get to know you, because it's really a crowded marketplace out there today. People are really overwhelmed, especially with social media. So it's like a Chinese menu that you get to pick what's most relative for you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that idea of the QR code. So that's going to a website, or is it going to a funnel where you can generate leads and things like that? Are there other resources that you put in the book too? Because I've seen some books where they'll mention like, oh yeah, and you can learn more about this by downloading this free course or something like that, and that's an opt-in for something else. Are you sprinkling in other offers in there, or is it just a QR code on the back?
Yeah, it all depends. Like we have one author that we're working with right now, and she is a celebrity chef. She's writing her own book. And so not only does it's part memoir, it's part life experience, and it's part cookbook. So not only is she is the speaker, she is creating a course, she also has a cooking school. She does a lot of different things, wears a lot of different hats. So throughout the book, it's sprinkled in ways that you can work with her or download a recipe or bring in for team building, bring in to do a corporate event at her cooking school. So yeah, that can be sprinkled throughout your book.
Yeah. And I guess that's another good point as well. I guess I just kind of assumed that this was going to be a how-to book, right? Or an educational book. So could this just be like, an autobiography or something like that? Or are there different subjects that you could do, or different types of books? Or Are we mostly focused on doing like a how-to book?
Well, how-to books are great. A lot of people do want the how-to book and showcase their expertise. Other people, we have another author that we're working with right now, and she's a photographer. And so she's going to be sharing the stories and showcasing her work. She's really involved in working with nonprofits. That's her passion. And so her end goal is different than somebody else that is establishing or wanting to grow their business or tee up another offer to their existing business. So we do this book mapping call. So we get a lot of clarity. So we're working in partnership with our authors to see what it is they've already done, where they see themselves, not only that year, but where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because that book is going to be sitting on someone's bookshelf a long time. So you want to make it relevant.
A lot of our audience, they're coaches, they're consultants, they're course creators, somewhere on that spectrum and somewhere in the journey, whether they're just putting together their first offer or they're more advanced. So I'd love to kind of walk through sort of a case scenario with you and kind of see what this would look like in adding into a book. Just to begin with, where's or when is a really good time for that specific type of person who's in the info product service-based space? When is the right time to actually think about a book?
Well, certainly around a launch. So if you're launching a digital course, that's a great time to write a book or participate in a co-author book. If you're changing your business model, if you're expanding. So there are a lot of different ways to do it, or your current audience, you just want to build your audience, the scope of your audience. So there's so many reasons to do it, but it's whatever it is that you're focused on. So, depending on the time of year it is, like you're at the end of the year, you're thinking about what you're creating for the next year. You're thinking about what you want to create for a decade. Hopefully you're thinking about a 30,000-foot view of your business and you have it mapped out. I knew that when I launched, I had to look at, okay, I'm going to launch this and then I'm going to launch that. I'm going to launch a group coaching program before a certification program, that sort of thing. So I knew I was going to do certification program, but first I wanted group coaching. So you can plant the seeds that all this is coming. And that's the beauty of something like, yes, of course, your website on there with a QR code, but if you use something on your website where you're going to, keep adding all these different offers, but if you're someone that has a lot of landing pages, and let's face it, a lot of people have landing pages now, is to have your link tree or something else similar to that, so that as your links change, you don't have to worry about reproducing your book. So you have to think, going out 5 to 10 years.
Okay, awesome. So if we think about a new coach, or maybe they're doing some one-on-one clients here or there, but now they're really ready to launch or looking towards launching a group program, right? And really kind of going all in this space. What would be the strategy? Like, when does the book come in? How do you then, are you using the book then to lead into the sale? Like, walk us through the full process here for someone.
Okay, great question. So first, it starts before the book is actually written. So as you're writing the book, as you're writing the chapter, as you know the launch, so you don't just all of a sudden you have this book. So if you allow to peel back the curtain and show the process of why you were writing the book, that you were writing, so all the messy middle, right? Like you're sitting there with your big Starbucks or whatever, your matcha latte, and you are writing. So people, because then you share like your why the whole time that you're doing it. And not only like why, because you're going to have a course and you're launching your business, but why you are so passionate about launching your course. You get to share all of that, which is telling like the storytelling. We know how important that is, and let people see behind the scenes. So people can start to pace with you and watch you. They'll be interested. Okay, so they're writing the book. What chapter are they on? They're on chapter 1 now. They're on chapter 5. Now they're struggling. Now they're going through the struggle and they're sharing the struggle, right? And so we want to go with people on the journey. Now they're doing the book launch. Now they have the book launch. And then you're following that. And maybe you're even, the potential future client buys a copy of the book. And now you're Now you've connected with the client. Now you have already, so you've already written your book. You can be sharing bits and pieces of your story and what it is that you're going to be sharing in the book so people can get more from you, more of your passion, more of your expertise, solving their problem. You're talking about the problem that you're solving for them the whole time, so that when they get the book and then when they learn about your new course or your new offer, your group coaching, for example. So we have one client, I'll use this one example right now. She happens to have been a co-author in our very first book called The Speak, Lead, Impact. And then she joined us for our third book. So our fourth book. So she's going to be a co-author. She is a co-author right now in our fourth book, which is The Biohack Entrepreneur. And so during that time, that interim, she has created a women's community, a sister group. She calls it the sister group. And so in this next book, she gets to talk about what her experience has been, because she's already had an experience. She's already been building this group of the ladies that she's working with. And it's also springboarding her into her own book. She's already booked out her speaking events for 2025. She's already a keynote at a very large event. Like, she's already doing these things. She's building the community. She's building her business. She has private clients and all the above. So you just stair step, and it's like a map for you. It's the roadmap, like a blueprint for you, if you're using it the right way. If you don't let it just sit on your bookshelf and build just dust. And that's what most people, you mentioned that, Leah, that's what most people do. They get the book. They think there's going to be a big bang. They think that they're going to sell zillions of copies. They think they're going to make a lot of money from selling the book. You're not going to make the money from selling the book. That's not the idea of writing the book. Writing it for many other reasons, and the reasons that we're talking about here today. But it's just the mindset around the why.
So as far as writing a book or being a part of an anthology, if somebody's doing this for the very first time, would you recommend like actually writing your own book if you can handle that? Or do you always recommend like doing an anthology first?
I recommend the anthology. I wish I would have known that. 100%. I struggled. First off, I spent 3 or 4 times what I should have been spending because he didn't know better. And the quality of the book, it's so interesting because I still have copies of that old book from 15 years ago. It's so low quality. So you don't know what you don't know until you know it. When you participate in an anthology book, you have and it was hard. It was really hard. I mean, just to start writing, and then all the woulda, shouldas and the imposter syndrome and all the things that come up, and you're doing it in a silo. You're doing it by yourself. And you don't even know what questions to ask. So, of course, your questions aren't answered because you don't even know. And when you're in an anthology, and for us, many of the authors from our first book have done second books and third books with us, have done all the books with us, because they have gotten so much from being part of the community. Just about everybody that co-authors with us either is a speaker. Many of them have their own podcasts, so they're on each other's podcasts. They hang out together, they collaborate, they do events together, and all this sort of thing. So why do it alone? I would have 100% have done it this way. I would have saved a lot of money, and I would have gone a lot faster. I would have understood the process.
Yeah, I think that's a great point about just the speed and just getting something out there, get it implemented, and really just learning the process. And then once you learn it the first time, then the second time is just going to be so much bigger and better. So when you're doing an anthology, what type of content are you typically contributing? Is this just your story, or are you actually training on something? Are you educating people about something? What are you typically contributing to an anthology?
Well, first we have a theme, and based on the theme, like right now we are rolling for 2 different books, 2 different themes. Like, one is more health and wellness oriented, and one is 100% entrepreneurial. All of our books have been entrepreneurial. The health and wellness book, the anthology book that we're doing right now, does have the foundation of being an entrepreneur as well. But so having a theme, and we don't accept everyone. We vet in the people that are part of the book. So we want them to be a certain caliber to participate as, because we look at it as the collective. And then we give you an outline. We don't just say, okay, you have a blank page, just go ahead and write whatever you want. We give them an outline. And the beginning part outlines sharing part of your story. We give them about how long they should share in their storytelling in the beginning, that they can weave in sound bites along the way. We have writing rooms. We have coaching. We do big book coaching Zoom rooms. And everybody comes in together and they ask their questions along the way as they're asking. Then we have a couple questions that are mandatory that everybody answers. So there's the cohesiveness throughout the book. So it's seamless when you're reading through. So we have a lot of structure, and we are there with our co-authors 100% of the way.
That's awesome. So walk us through the promotional part of this, right? So this is your very first book, and whether it's an anthology or a solo project, like, how do you actually promote the book itself?
We template everything in general, right? So what we do once they're writing, we start before they're writing, but number one, we set up an event, one big large event. Last year, we had maybe 180 people for that launch event. And we also bring in our co-authors to speak. So as they're writing, they know there's going to be an event. They know that there is going to be a launch. We template out the emails, the funnels, the website, all the particulars. So they don't have to worry about the nuts and the bolts of the book. Not only then do we have an event, we also then get into Barnes & Noble, and then we have book signings in Barnes & Noble that we fully produce. When we did our very first book called The Speak, Lead, and Impact, we must have had, I don't know, here in Boca Raton, Florida, we must have had 100 and something people that came to the book signing and the book authors. We had an MC. Everybody was mic'd up. It was a 2-story Barnes & Noble. It was an event. We have our video production team there, photographers there. We're creating content. We're creating reels. We're creating all the copy, all the content that they need to actually then promote themselves. But we're doing the heavy lifting. We're doing most of the promoting, and then, making everybody a collaborator. So it's just like turnkey. All they have to do is hit accept. So we map it out a year in advance, and then we just rinse and repeat. The first year that we did it, it was really successful. Actually, my publishing partner, Patricia Wooster, and I came together for the first co-author book, and she had been doing co-author books and helping hundreds of people write books. And the very first year, there was so much uptake, there was so much success, there was so much excitement in the community. Everybody was asking, how can we participate in your next anthology book, a writer-on book, and that sort of thing. So then we formalized a partnership, and we merged our businesses together, and now we're full partners. And we not only help our authors write their books, but then if they want to write a course, after that, create a course or a cohort or something like that. Or if they have old books, a lot of them already have a book that they launched, but it didn't go anywhere. So we help them with the formula, but they also learn the formula while they're working with us. So they have all the behind the scenes to help them there too.
That's wonderful. I think that's so important. Promotion is a skill. If you want to have a business, you have to learn to promote. And it's so critical for folks, no matter what they're doing, whether it's a book, a course, anything, you have to learn to promote yourself. You have to promote your offer. So keeping that front of mind and building around with that, I think makes total sense. So I'm curious about the whole Amazon thing, right? Because there's a lot of talk about Amazon when it comes to publishing. So what are your thoughts on Amazon? Are you listing on Amazon? Do you do the whole ranking thing? What kind of break us down your Amazon take?
Okay, well, Amazon makes it easy, right? It's so that, they have their KDP arm for self-publishing. And you do want to be on Amazon. A lot of people go to Amazon. That's where they buy their books. I buy my books on Amazon, whether I'm getting a book and it's Prime is delivering it the next day, or whether I'm listening to an audio book. It's Amazon is our go-to. But that being said, you want to be in the mom and pops and you want to be in the other bookstores. So you want to upload your book to other platforms. And there are other platforms. And that's really important. That's why you want to make sure that you are in a retailer like Barnes & Noble. That makes a difference. That's how you can do a book signing, a national book signing. We're so honored that this past year that we won an award from the LA Tribune. They actually flew out to our last event. Just having a presence everywhere, I believe, is important. I also think it's important then as an author, because you can easily order from KDP, is to get your books and then to stock your books. And then you can also have them on your website. You can also, like Hay House Publishing. I used to bring in a lot of Hay House authors, my events, and just order the books from Hay House and you set up the tables and then people can buy them right there on the spot at the event. And it's just very nice to have access. You don't have a quantity minimum. That is really, really important. When I used to use publishers like HCI here that did the Chicken Soup of the Soul series right here in South Florida, you had a minimum order. So you always had to order boxes of books. You couldn't just say, okay, I only need 50 or I only need 20, like whatever it is. So yeah, I think that Amazon, and as far as your question about ranking, I think it is important to get the status of best-selling author. But here's the difference. You want it in the right category. You don't want knitting as a category, because there are some categories that are easier to get than others. And we are so proud that we have gotten the pristine, really stand out categories as best-selling status for our books. Public speaking, entrepreneurship. So we're really proud of that. And that's something a lot of people do not know when they're doing it on their own. Or a lot of the anthology programs that I have looked at, they get you best-selling status, but it's like one category and it's the one they choose. And there are a lot of different industries in the anthology. And we take into consideration all of our authors when going for the categories.
That makes sense. So yeah, I've seen that before too, where people choose a random, unrelated, but easy to rank for category so they can get the bestseller seal and just kind of have that badge. It's like, well, kind of. Like,
a little cheat there.
Yeah.
A thing that you can stand behind and feel super proud of. And that's what's important, because your identity is being a best-selling author. Like to really own that and feel that and be proud of it. It's really important.
Yeah, I'd hate to do this whole process and then have this twang of guilt and shame whenever I said Amazon bestseller, because yes, but, and you're going to always have that asterisk in your own mind even. So yeah, I think that makes a good point. I've heard some things about launching sequentially. I've heard from other folks like ebook, then paperback, then hard copy, or doing different stuff like that. What are your thoughts or what do you recommend?
Well, the reason why you do that, it makes a lot of sense, because then you keep everything fresh and you're launching. You also get best-selling status in the different categories. So when you launch on Audible, it counts as a whole new category. And yeah, it gives something fresh to talk about. It for us, the authors, well, we keep everybody together in one community. So it's not just, you're just that book and you're just this book. Everybody's together supporting one another the whole way, like cheering each other on. Yeah, it makes it exciting. You want to keep your book fresh and relevant. Yes.
That's awesome. Any final tips or insights that you want to share with our audience today?
Yeah, think about that thing that if you could shout it from the mountaintop, if you could have a billboard, what is that message that you want to share? What is your why? What is your purpose? Like, what is your passion? Like, let it bubble up inside, and you can do like that kind of muscle testing thing that I've seen done, right? Say like, do I want to write a book? Like, would this change the face of my business? And just sit with that. It always does. If you do it right, if you do it right, and if you have a roadmap of how to leverage, and the key is leverage, that you've written a book and what you have written about. So yeah, I think everybody has a book inside of them. The numbers are mind-blowing, and less than 1% actually publish the book.
I don't know anybody who wishes they hadn't done it. I know a lot of people who wishes they had done all of the other promotional things with it. But I've never heard of anybody that actually regretted writing the book in the first place. So I think that's something to incorporate, into the factory.
I'll tell you a story. My husband has watched me do these anthology books, and he was like, yeah, that's great. I love that. He's been retired for 30 years. And so he's very happy. He's super happy. And I'm so passionate about this, and I'm not stopping because I would do this no matter what. This is in my veins. And after the second book, and he's he's really hard to get to. He's like, he's not impressed easily. Let's put it that way. And he actually said to me, after the second book launched, he leaned over and he whispered to me, I'm going to be in the third book. I was like, didn't even ask him. He said, I want to be in the third book. And he was in our third book, and so proud to do so. And that just goes to show that even if you don't think you want to write a book, but when you see what happens to people when they do, then it can awaken that part that said, yeah, I have a story to tell. He started to think, I want to tell my story of how I was able to retire like really early on, like in my late 30s. I want to tell that story. That might help somebody if I share that story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a beautiful story, and I'm glad that he did, and that I'm sure a lot of people learned from him and were inspired and took some good gold nuggets from that. So that's wonderful. Wendi, if people want to learn more about you, where should they head?
Well, my website, which is my name, Wendi Blum, Wendi with an I. So I changed the spelling of my name. It was Y, but I changed it to an I. So wendyblum.com. And right on the homepage, if you want to write a book, if you want to schedule a one-on-one, I'd love to just connect with you. If you have questions about book writing, I'd happily share with you on a call.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us, Wendi. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.